elusive tale that's been lost among the sands and weeds of the Mexican desert.
There were rumors since long ago that an object crashed in Mexico.
In 1974, a mysterious incident took place that some say involved a UFO and a small plane on a collision course, followed by a race between two governments to recover the debris.
The Mexican recovery team finds a sort of a silver-shaped plastic disc.
The Mexican military recovered an object and had it on a truck, and something killed all the men.
The U.S. government responded very quickly and very organized. They've done this before.
But what happened in the Mexican desert is just the beginning of that country's UFO history.
The eclipse from July 11, 1991, it practically branded the modern era of UFOs in Mexico.
Over the last several decades, it has become a hotbed for UFO encounters.
When they picked up the object on radar, the first thing they did was start looking at it.
And everyone from pilots to politicians have been witness to sightings.
Would you say to the governor that he didn't see something strange in the sky?
In the next hour, eyewitness interviews, never-before-seen footage, and expert analysis try to solve the mystery of what really happened that day in the Mexican desert in 1974, and the rash of documented sightings ever since. Cuyame, Mexico, a small town not found on many maps, a place swallowed up by the Mexican desert, home to more agave plants than people.
Cuyame is situated in the northern part of the state of Chihuahua, and our municipality is 7,000 square feet. We have between 2,000 to 2,500 people. It's a calm place, a beautiful place.
A place with no library, no archives, and no local historian. But that doesn't mean it's a town without a history. Here, history is passed from neighbor to neighbor. And it's this oral history that gives testimony to an unsolved air collision that took place here just 3 decades ago. It began as a civilian plane took off from El Paso, Texas, en route to Mexico City.
August 25th, 1974. There was a plane that was coming out from El Paso. It was going to Mexico City, and it was an accident.
They say that there was a crash between a plane and a UFO within the territories of the municipality.
I don't think this could be made up. How could someone make this up? It's true.
August 25th, 1974, 10:07 p.m. It's a quiet summer's night in Cuyame. The town's inhabitants are beginning to turn in. 500 miles away, United States air defense systems suddenly register an unknown flying object over the Gulf of Mexico. Streaking across the sky at over 2,500 miles per hour, at an altitude of 75,000 feet, only one thing is for certain. This is not something man-made. Initial indications are that it's probably nothing more than a meteor. But 60 seconds later, it becomes clear that this is no meteor.
This object was traveling and descending through steps, unlike that of a meteor, again, with more of an arc.
The object appears headed on a course towards Corpus Christi, Texas. American air defense systems are alerted. 10:09 p.m. The unidentified flying object now suddenly veers left and enters Mexican airspace just 40 miles south of Brownsville, Texas. The U.S. continues tracking the puzzling spacecraft as it now races over Mexico. Yet what isn't seen on radar is a small craft headed on a trajectory towards the UFO.
What's also interesting about this case is About the same time as this UFO was zigging and zagging, there was a plane that was leaving El Paso headed towards Mexico City.
Under the cover of night, the small civilian plane from El Paso heads towards Mexico's capital city. But the plane from Texas never reaches its destination. At the same time, the American military watches as their unidentified flying object disappears from radar. It appears that the unthinkable has happened. A UFO plane collision.
There's an assumption that there was a collision of some type where both the craft and the plane had collided.
August 26, 1974, 8 a.m. 9 hours after a civilian plane disappeared over the desert, a Mexican recovery team hunts for the downed craft. Across the border, American intelligence is listening in. At 10:35 a.m., the Americans intercept the Mexican military radio report. The wreckage of the missing plane has been spotted just outside Coyame. Moments later, another report shockingly announces the sighting of a second wreck, but this is no plane.
The Mexican recovery team finds a sort of a silver-shaped classic disc, some 16 feet 5 inches, about 5 feet thick, convex on both sides, sort of like a saucer.
The saucer's surface has the appearance of polished steel. It has no markings, no lights, and there are no bodies inside. However, it does appear to be damaged in 2 spots, possibly caused by a collision with the civilian plane and then falling to the ground. Immediately, Mexican officials declare a radio silence on all search activities. Meanwhile, U.S. officials reach out to the Mexican government, offering assistance in the recovery. Their offer is met with a denial.
The Mexican government denied it. They said, no, all we have is just a plane wreckage.
While the Mexican team collects the crash debris, the United States is busy assembling their own elite recovery force at Fort Bliss, Texas. The team includes 4 helicopters, 3 small Hueys, and a large Sea Stallion. Prepped and ready to move out, the team is placed on standby, while U.S. surveillance scopes out the situation.
The U.S. was keeping tabs again through its what I call the spy surveillance network, through their satellite surveillance as well as airplanes that were flying over at low altitude.
American surveillance reveals that the Mexicans have placed the UFO on a flatbed truck and moved out from the crash site.
They were able to see there were a number of dead bodies, so which led them to believe that something very extraordinary had happened.
August 27th, 2:38 p.m. Unsure of what's happened, U.S. officials greenlight their rescue team. 4 helicopters with team members aboard depart Fort Bliss.
One of the things that seems obvious in this case is that the government, the U.S. government, responded very expertly, very quickly, and very organized. They had this team that assembled in Fort Bliss, and in no time were down there on site recovering this. They've done this before.
But nothing will prepare the Americans for what they are about to find. Dressed in bioprotection suits, the